This is Economy Watch, what you need to know about New Zealand's economic life today. Brought to you by interest.co.nz.
Kia ora, and welcome to Friday's Economy Watch, where we follow the economic events and trends that affect Aotearoa. I'm David Chaston, and this is the international edition from interest.co.nz, and today we lead with news about separate corruption cases involving Gautam Adani and Matt Gaetz. But first today, the US labour market is maintaining its strength, despite strikes and tropical hurricanes. Last week, only 213,000 people filed for initial jobless claims there, well below the prior week, below what seasonal factors would have brought, and below the same week last year. This was a 7-month low. Continuing claims inched up from the prior week to 1.67 million, but that was about the same level as last year. Those job gains are helping their housing market. Existing home sales rose in October by 3.5% from the previous month to an annualised rate of just under 4 million. While this level is pretty tame for them, it is off the September low, which had the distinction of being a 14-year low. Industry insiders are hoping October's rise signals a trend turnaround, but it is hard to see with mass layoffs in the US federal workforce imminent. It might be a vain hope. In contrast to the big jump in the New York region, the Philly Fed's factory survey dipped in November, but new order levels remained positive and sentiment ahead did too. It was similar in the same report by the Kansas City Fed, where firms expect increases in production, new orders and employment in the next 6 months. In Canada, producer prices turned up in October after easing in the prior month to continue a trend that started in April, but the rises are not inflationary. In India, the depth and pervasiveness of corruption is on display in a case that is gripping the country. The BSE fell 0.5% on the news, and Prime Minister Modi is annoyed about the revelations as Adani has been important in his rise. In New York, Indian billionaire Gautam Adani was indicted on bribery charges in a US federal court yesterday, with prosecutors alleging the 62-year-old tycoon and other Indian executives promised more than $250 million to Indian government officials to win contracts. Bribery is also at the heart of a Swiss case against the same people, and Indian steel makers have faced similar allegations. But given the pervasiveness of corruption in India at the top level, there is probably little that will change there, especially as the BJP controls their government. The Americans are prosecuting because Adani did not disclose the bribes and documentation for fundraising in US markets, and it was considered to be a material factor for those investments. Ending a long series of improvement, the EU Consumer Sentiment Survey reported a fall to a more negative result in November. Despite this, data out for EU car sales was quite positive, putting the August and September sag behind it and returning to levels that have been normal since mid-2022. In Turkey, they reviewed their policy rate and held it at 50%. Turkey has inflation running at 48%. In South Africa, they also reviewed theirs and cut it by 25 basis points to 7.75%. South Africa now has inflation running at 2.8% and falling quite quickly. It is back within its target range. Container shipping freight rates were little changed last week. Bulk cargo rates spiked during the week but ended up basically unchanged from last week. The US Treasury 10-year yield is now just on 4.42% and up 1 basis point from this time yesterday. Wall Street started its Thursday little changed, but then rose 0.7% on the S&P 500 and rising when Matt Gaetz said he won't be the US Attorney General. And the price of gold will start today at $2,649 an ounce and up another $26 from yesterday. And China has found new gold reserves in central Hunan province. China is the world's largest gold producer, accounting for about 10% of global output. Oil prices are again little changed, up 50 US cents to just over $69.50 a barrel in the US, while the international Brent price is now just over $73.50 a barrel. And the Kiwi dollar starts today at 58.6 US cents and down 10 basis points from this time yesterday. Against the Aussie, we're 40 basis points lower at 90 Australian cents. Against the euro, we're unchanged at 55.8 euro cents. That all means our trade-weighted index starts today at just over 68.3 and down 20 basis points from yesterday. And the Bitcoin price starts today at $97,247 and up 3.7% from yesterday. Volatility over the past 24 hours has been moderate, at just on plus or minus 2.7%. You can find links to the articles mentioned today in our show notes, and you can get more news affecting the economy in New Zealand from interest.co.nz. Kia ora, I'm David Chaston, and we'll do this again on Monday.